Wednesday night, possibly next Wednesday night. We're looking tonight at Abraham trying to help God. Abraham trying to help God. How many of you have ever tried to help God? Yeah, we all do it, don't we? Lord, you can't make it without me. Let me help you do this. It's an odd thing. I found in one of my commentary readings that Sarah was the cause of it, and she's the first one that got burnt by it. And so there's just a lot going on here. But we're in the process of Roman numeral 3, trusting God. Number D, Abram tries to help God. They'd been married for I don't know how many years. I hadn't figured it out. Probably could. Had no children and no heir. And what's the big deal about that? God promised them they would have children and heir. Lots of children. How many children? As much as the stars in the heavens, much as the sand on the seashore. Many, many children. Specifically, you're going to be the start of a great nation. And my soul. So, Abram and Sarah get together to try to help God. Because as the years went down, it got increasingly closer to the end. You know, Lord, are you going to do anything? Lord, I'm still here. I'm still waiting. We've all been there, right? We all get impatient. I want this new internet thing hooked up. And they said, you want it hooked up right or you want it hooked up quick? And I said, well, quick and right. I want them both. I want it hooked up. I'm tired of people crashing the thing during the church service and everything. But the discrepancies got larger and larger and larger. And Abraham got more and more confused about that. Now remember, Abraham is not a seasoned minister of the gospel. He's just a guy that God chose off the streets of Ur of the Chaldees, and said, I'm going to make a great nation out of you. Get going. And he got going, and now then he doesn't have a nation. All he's got is a nephew, Lot, and then a wife, Sarah, and Lot's got a wife too, apparently, and a couple of children. He doesn't have anything, and he's getting more and more impatient. Let's put it that way. Let's be nice to Abraham, okay? Because after all, he is the father of the Jewish nation, and also you have to say that we are kin back to him as well. But he's getting a little bit ahead of God here. To add a concubine, what do you think about that? This secondary wife, this concubine, to bring her bondslave, an Egyptian girl, into his tent, I have to say, among the people that were all around him, that would have been perfectly all right. I mean, but look who's all around them. Look at the people that are all around them. And they would have seen that, and probably he saw that as a kid over there in the Chaldean country, Babylonian country. And so he probably would have thought, well, it's accepted. But is it? I mean, let's think for just a second. Sarah, Abram's wife, had borne him no children. She had a handmaid, an Egyptian, to add fuel to the fire. She is an Egyptian. Her name is Hagar. Now, this is the only illustration in the Bible. This is the only event in the Bible that is described in Galatians chapter 4 as an allegory. Everything else is a literal thing that happened, unless maybe the rich man in Hades looked over and saw Abraham. He's probably doing that as an illustration. But everything else is a real thing. This is an allegory. And as we go through this, please understand, it means one thing, but it also has a real highly important secondary meaning. For instance, only you can prevent forest fires. What is that? That's Old Smoky. And from that has come a whole genre of things. The caps that the highway patrolmen wear are called Smoky hats. Smoky and the banquet. Bandit, Smokey and the Bandit, okay. That whole idea of that cap, that hat, that Smokey the Bear, is there a real Smokey the Bear? Is he out there someplace? It's an allegory. It stands for something, and we all know what it stands for. It stands for forest fire prevention. Hagar and Sarah and Ishmael and Isaac are real important lessons, and as we go through this, please just see this literally happened. This literally did happen. Sarah said to Abram, "Now the Lord has restrained me, prevented me." Now underlying in that, whose fault is it? Can you kind of see a little bit there? Now let's give them the benefit of a doubt. These are people, these are not people that have been saved for 100 years. These are people that the Lord, notice the spelling, the Lord has prevented me, restrained me from bearing children. Now I want you to see this. Please go, please. She's nice about it, isn't she? Please go in unto my maid, and perhaps I will be built by her. I will be, that's a strange word. Have children, obtain children is the word be built. So what would be built by Hagar? Obviously the family. Obviously the whatever it is that God has promised. I will obtain children by her. I might be built by her. Well, it's probably okay. It's sinful in God's book, but the other people don't go by God's book. And remember, they're all brand new. Let's face it now. They're dealing with things here that they've never dealt with before. And so, like I said, I try to be understanding about this. But is it ever okay to be built by sinful means? Think about that. Perhaps I will obtain children by her. And so she's obviously thinking, any child that Hagar has will be mine. I will obtain children. There's one little problem with that. You're going to see what happens here. Go in unto my maid, and perhaps I'll obtain children by her, or be built by her. And Abraham hearkened to the voice of Sarah. Well, all right, all you chauvinists, go ahead and say it. I told you so. Simple truth is, we've seen it from Adam and Eve. We've seen it all the way through here. It's a 2-for-1 here deal. They're both involved. Technically, it's Abraham's sin, but he just listened to the voice of his wife, and it's not okay to be built by other means. If God says, I will give you, or you will have children, then that's what's going to happen. We really don't need to help God out. Although we kind of want to, don't we? Yesterday we prayed, me and David prayed, God help us on the journey. Protect the other drivers. Keep them on their side of the biscuit. Keep them over there and help us to have it. And then when we get there, let the doctors and nurses, the basic prayer. Stooping to human means is not a little problem. Somebody brought up about the death of a dog. A little thing. It's not a little thing. God cares about everything. Everything, little thing, big things and all. So, any thoughts or comments about this thus far? This was allowed and may have even been considered normal in that day.
Well, they didn't have the law or the Bible.
Didn't have nothing. Didn't have anything. There are no Christians. There's a believer in God that he has not seen. At this point, we don't know that he's seen anything about it. So we have to give him the benefit of a doubt, right? Go, George.
Wasn't she past the age of childbearing?
Mm-hmm. So was he.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, you could.
I can understand. You understand?
Yeah.
I got it.
And she probably thought that was the only solution, even though we don't understand God.
Perhaps I will be built by her.
Yeah.
She's really taking the responsibility. I will be built, but we're going to use her. It was normal, guys, in the days of Jesus, it was normal for a father to take his son as a very young child, 11, 12, 13, 14, to the temple to be broken in by the temple prostitutes. Normal. It was desirable for the parents of a daughter that their daughter was a temple prostitute. That was the highest pinnacle of what they could do. Now think about that. That's the area that they lived in. And the same thing is going on right here. It was very, very a wicked situation. We sit back and we say, I'd never do it. Oh, come on. Yes, you would. And so would I, probably. Abram hearkened to the voice of Sarah. And Sarai, Abram's wife, took Hagar, her maid, the Egyptian, after Abram had dwelt 10 years in the land of Canaan. They'd been there for 10 years. God promised they're going to have a whole family go out there and look up at the stars, look at the sand, all this kind of stuff. She gave her to her husband Abram to be his wife. Now the word wife right there would be translated secondary wife or second wife. It is described as a concubine in other places in the Bible. When it says to be his wife, it was that second tier down. It's not degrading, but it is a descriptive phrase that it's not the first wife. I have been in the tent structure of the sheikh of Beersheba. The tent structure of the sheikh. Sheikh, I call it sheikh, they pronounce it. His house is in the center, his tent is in the center, and 2/3 of it is designed for him, and 1/3 of it is designed for his favored wife. Then the other wives are clustered around the major tent. And that's where I walked up behind all of them. I shouldn't have, but I went up and took some pictures that they asked me to not do. So because it's a graven image, it's making a graven image, it's very highly looked down upon. But I wanted to see that. I wanted to see in my Father's house are many dwelling places. If it were not so, I would have told you, I'm going to prepare a place for you, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you, so that where I am, there ye may be also. That's the way they did it. That's the way they lived. And so it's the same thing right here. The secondary wife, or the what you might call the concubine. It was probably considered as a normal thing. And Abraham probably didn't even think anything about it. He went into Hagar. She conceived. Now, ladies, how long would that take to know that? Would it take a week, or 2 weeks, 3 weeks to know? A month? She knew that she was, when she first missed her period and all like that. So when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Now you have to think about that. Should we rise? Should we stand in the presence of indignities coming in?
She got jealous.
Oh, are you talking about Carolyn? Okay. He went into Hagar, and she conceived, and when she saw that she had conceived, her mistress, Sarah, was despised in her eye. Hagar got mad. She got mad at Sarah when she saw that she had conceived. Now, what do you think happened?
She wanted to be the main wife.
Think so?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll give you a point on that one. Any other thoughts from you major theologians out there? For something went on.
Well, once she's pregnant, then I don't want you around my husband anymore. And maybe demoted her, and she got mad.
Somebody said something to somebody. Somebody did something. It's like what's her name said today. Somebody did something. Although this was allowed, this was considered, her mistress was despised in her eyes. Now, notice this. Sarah said to Abram, my wrong. Now, what that means is the wrong done to me. What has been done to me should be on you. It's your fault. So she is saying that Hagar is mistreating me. My wrong, the wrong done to me, you've put her in front of me. She's the one, and yet nothing about sin makes any sense, does it? I mean, there's no way in the world you can reason out and say, well, I can understand why they would sin. No, there's just so many ways that they could go wrong on this thing. My wrong done to me be upon you. I have given my maid to you. She admits that. But when she saw that she had conceived, I was despised in her eyes. Let the Lord judge between you and me. It's your fault. Now, what is that Bible verse about a woman scorned? That is a Bible verse, isn't it? Not really, but there's a little bit of a problem in paradise here. And when sin comes in, there's going to be a little bit of a problem, okay? So my wrong be on you because I did this. You see, folks, anger gives birth to what? Peace? No, anger. Anger begets anger. That's just the way it is. When you can't control the anger, you'll reach the state where it will get completely out of control. You might have said that the book would allow it, but we're not dealing with the book. We're dealing with God's book here. We're dealing with God's rules as such. They didn't have it. They didn't have the law. Moses has not been born, won't be for another 400 years or so. And the first family and the first home are acting like they're about to break up. They're on the verge of breaking apart. Nothing's writing on this except the whole thing, the whole shooting match. Somebody was going to lead in prayer. Nick was going to lead in prayer the other day on Youth Day, and I said, nobody's listening except potentially the whole world. No pressure. No pressure. There's nothing writing on this except the whole thing, the whole nation. What's wrong done to me, I'm going to put it on you. Let the Lord judge between. Now she's bringing God into it, and that part of it is good. Just this one time. Just this one time. Hagar didn't see it that way. Okay, I'll give you the point on that one. I am going to come back and say, Sarah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's why I say this is an allegory of what's going on today. Oh, you're going to go that way. I notice that Charlene is not here tonight. Could you get that on tape and put that specially on a CD so he can take it home with him? You got it? Good deal. Okay. Abram said to Sarah, the maid is in your hand. You're in charge. You do what pleases you. That's what you call that. That's called a cop out. I'm not in this thing. Pilate did what? I washed my hands of the whole shooting match. I'm not in this thing. I'm not involved with it. You do to her as it pleases you. And so Sarah began to deal harshly. Now the word there is hana, H-A-N-A, hana, which means to beat, to persecute, to treat illy, to ill-treat somebody, to beat. There's a beating involved here. It's harsh affliction, harsh treatment. Not near what Jesus went through, but that was hana. Okay? And that's what's happening with her. And so when that happens, Hannah, fled from her presence. All right, now, when Sarah threw it back at her, then Hagar began to see her place. She has no leg to stand on. He's washing his hands of it. He's not going to take my place in this thing. And apparently the persecution and the prosecution or whatever is getting kind of tough. And so she runs. She flees. Where's she going, by the way? Anybody read ahead? Now here is a strange creature. We have studied this before. Who is this being known as the angel of the Lord? Who is that? Or what is that? That's a theophany. That is an appearance of God Himself in either human or angelic or animal, whatever He chooses, whatever form He chooses. This is an appearance of God. Probably God the Son, more than likely. The angel, now notice that, by the way, I was supposed to capitalize that "the" in front of angel, because this is deity. I'm sorry I didn't do that. This, the angel of the Lord. By the way, this is the first time this being is mentioned in the Bible. Now, this is a special appearance of God. And to whom does He appear? Hagar. We want this being to appear to us. We want Him to come to our church. We want Him to appear to Abraham and to Sarah. No, He appears to Hagar first. Now there's a lot involved in that. Notice what He says. He found her by the spring of water in the wilderness on the way to the shore. The shore is the wall. Now that is the boundary. Yeah, they had walls in those days too. That's the boundary, the border between the desert area and Egypt. She's headed back home. And she makes it to a fountain of water in the wilderness on the way to the wall. She's headed back towards Egypt. And the angel of the Lord accosts her. Now, does she know who this is? Who do you know in the Bible has seen this being?
Up to this point or at all?
Anytime. You think the burning bush?
Yes, that was God.
That was God. That's true, but there's no mention of an angel being there. But first time I remember is Joshua. Joshua sees that soldier outside the walls of Jericho, and he says, "Who are you?" And the question is, who are you? Are you on my side, or this angel of the Lord here? This is a special. This could be considered as the death angel in Egypt, or the death angel. It doesn't. I don't know who it is, but whoever this is or whatever this is, it is a special manifestation of God in whatever form He chooses to be. He chooses most of the time to be like an angel. So what would that, in your mind, what would He look like? You think He's got wings? No, He doesn't have wings. Now let's go ahead and read that. Angels, most angels do not have wings. I know what artists say.
Just a bright light. Just a super bright light. That's what
How big is He? He's huge. He's huge. He's feminine looking. No. He's male. Don't know about a beard or anything like that. But dressed how? However, whatever He's presenting Himself as. When the three people came up to Abraham, sitting out in the door of his tent, one of them was this angel. And he looked to Abraham like a man. He was dressed like a guy. A robe and all this kind of stuff. So this one looks like an angel. Whatever being he wants to look like. Joshua, what did he look like when Joshua saw him? A soldier, a commander, military guard, swords and flashing armor and all this kind of stuff. But don't take your theology. This is not. What's that movie that John Travolta was in? Michael? No. He's the only angels that have wings are the cherubim, and they only have 3 pairs of wings that we know about. Most of them are just beings. Okay. Whatever this. Any other thoughts or comments about this? She's on her way to shore. And the angel said, Hagar, Sarah's maid. So who is the angel saying Hagar is? I am This is a deity. This is probably the second person of the Godhead here. This is probably God the Son in angelic form. And he calls her Sarah's maid. He expressly notes that she was not liberated from being the maid in God's eyes. Where have you come from and where are you going? And she said, I'm fleeing from the presence of my mistress. So does she know her place? My mistress? I'm fleeing from the presence of my mistress, Sarah. The angel knows who she is and what she is. Hagar knows who she is and what she is. So what's the big deal here? Let's everybody start acting like what we are, okay? And this angel of the Lord, this theophany, said to her, go back to your mistress and submit yourself to her authority. Now notice what is happening here. I missed a lot of capital. I'm sorry about that. The angel of the Lord said to her, I will multiply your seed. What is he telling her that he is when he says, I will multiply your seed? I'm God. I am God. You have to understand, Sarah has never seen this thing before. Mary had never seen an angel before. Joseph had never seen an angel before. Joshua had never seen an angel before. Whoever this is and whatever this is, I will multiply your children exceedingly. What's built into the word exceedingly? A bunch. A whole pokeful, as we would say up in Frog Pond. You will bear too many to count. I'm going to do that for you. I will multiply your seed exceedingly. Any thoughts or comments about this thus far? Hagar's he's got her attention now. You know who you're talking to. I know who you are. I know your name. Hagar, Sarah's mistress, Sarah's maid. Sarah's maid, not mistress. Sarah's maid. Where are you going? Where you come from? As if I didn't know. She's running from the presence of my mistress, Sarah. Go back and submit yourself. Go back and submit yourself to your mistress's authority. And the angel said, I'm going to take care of this. Okay, ready to turn the page? Then the angel of the Lord said, by the way, you are with child. You know that, don't you? And she did. She knew it. And you're going to bear a son. This sounds almost like the appearance of the angel to Mary, doesn't it? You're going to bear a son. You shall call his name Ishmael, which means God hears. El is God. Ishmael means God's hears. Well, I thought this was Arabs. It's a son of Abraham. And we've got to get that first and all, okay? Because Abraham's going to love this boy. Abraham is going to teach this kid how to fish, how to ride a bicycle, how to do all these things. And when he chooses Isaac, Abraham is going to be sorry for Ishmael. Now, let's just put it right out there. You're going to call his name God hears, because the Lord has heard your affliction. He's given heed to your affliction. God hears. Ishmael. What do you know about Ishmael?
He's the father of all the love.
Okay, what else?
He became a great nation.
Great nation? He has, hasn't he? How did he build it? Love and peace and joy and charity and... He's a warrior. He's a wild man. You should see it in the original Hebrew. I don't want to talk about it. You're the wild donkey of a man, he says. That's technically what the language is there. The Lord has given heed to your affliction. He will be a wild man. His hand will be against every man, and every man's hand will be against him. Well, isn't that the way it works? Anger begats anger. You pull a sword on me, I'll pull a gun on you. You send one of my men to the whatever it was, what was that line in the Elliott Ness? You send one of my men to the hospital, I'll send one of yours to the morgue. It just increases, and just he's going to be a wild man. His hand will be against every man. Isn't that the way it is? Every man's hand will be against him. He will dwell in the presence or to the east of all of his brethren. What he's saying here is he's going to pull apart, and he's going to be the one that's going to be blessed. He's going to have a lot of kids. He's going to have a whole nation, but he'll be at war with everybody all the time. He'll be at war with his family. He'll be at war with every man's hand will be against him. How would you like to be? He shall dwell to the east of all of his brethren. Verse number 12. He shall be a wild man. I used this passage when Saddam Hussein was running crazy. One congressman said it this way: he is consummate evil running amok. A-M-O-K. I'd never heard that word amok before I heard that man say it. He'll be a wild man. His hand against every other man, and every man's hand against him. Doesn't sound like he's too much blessed of God, does it? But he is Abraham's son. Any thoughts? Well, yeah, I'm trying to be nice about that, Wayne. Actually, it's the other word. You're being nice about it too. I'm sorry?
Part of me wonders what's going through Hagar's mind.
What's going through Hagar's mind?
Yeah, whenever, the angel of the Lord was saying all this to her. I imagine,
I had never...
I imagine that she probably hasn't had a lot of time to process everything that's going on since she's basically, on the run right now. And then the angel of the Lord comes up to her, never had any kids before, and she's like, look, your kid's going to be wild, and he's just going to be all over the place. So...
I bet she's saying, oh, my, God help that kindergarten teacher. I had never thought of it from Hagar. Quite frankly, I have never thought much about Hagar anyhow, to be honest with you, but I guess we need to. Hagar called the name of the Lord that spoke to her, saying, you are God who sees me. You are God who sees me. You're the one who sees me. I've even remained alive after seeing him. What does that mean? I have even remained alive after seeing God. What does that mean? Okay. There is this underlying theme all the way through the Scriptures that we can't come in the awesome presence of God and live. And see his face. I have seen his face. And Moses went into the presence of God, and his face began to shine like the sun. And he lived through it. But there are others who come unworthily into the presence of God, stormed into the holy place, touched the Ark of the Covenant. Bingo! God knocked him flat on his face. When you come into the presence of God, you better make sure you're doing it right. All true. And I've seen, you saw me, and I have seen your presence, and I am still alive. She is, do what?
That's why it's God the Son, not God the Father.
Okay, I'll grant you that. That's right. It could also be God the Spirit, but I think normally the theophany is God the Son, the second person of the Godhead. I'm still alive after seeing him. She knows who this is, right? She knows clearly who it is. Wherefore the well was called Bir Lahai Rai. Bir Lahai Rai. Bir means the well. Bir Shiva is the well of Shiva. Bir Lahai Rai, the well of the living one who sees me. The well, they named it right there. It's between Kadesh and Bered. I have a picture of where it is. There's not a lot to recognize it, but here's the Dead Sea right there, and there's the well right there. And this little line, I think that's significant that little change of picture color is that's probably on the border between the desert area and Egypt. It's the line. It's at the shore, and it's the Bir Lahai Roi, and she named it that way. Okay? Hagar bore Abram a son, and he called his son's name, which Hagar bore, Ishmael. She tell him? She told Abram? Sure. No doubt about it. Abram was 86 years old when Hagar bore Ishmael to Abraham. This will conclude this particular passage right here. But please understand, this is an allegory. Hagar is a symbol of the law, and Sarah is a symbol of grace. Ishmael is a symbol of the law with its thou shalt not, thou shalt, and thou shalt not. And Isaac is a symbol of grace. And the Bible clearly says that over in Galatians chapter 4. We'll have to go over there one of these days and see that. Clearly, these things are an allegory. So you have to see where God says, this is the one I choose, but I will honor what they did. I will honor what they did. Don't agree with it. Now, question before the board. Is that it? Yeah. Question before the board. What if they hadn't have done that?
Well, we wouldn't have the wild man killing everybody.
We wouldn't have the wild man or his family. The devil would find somebody else. There's always a Greg Fodness out there that the devil could turn loose on the world. Or there's always something going on. But no, a lot of things would change. Do you see how what we decide to do can make a difference? Not right then maybe, but all the way down the line. Do you think she might have known that this decision that you're making here is earth-shaking? Think about that. This war is still going on today.
I don't think she knew that.
Not that far.
I think she was under authority of Sarah.
Okay.
Sarah told her to do this, and she did it.
And the angel of the Lord told her to do that. Submit. Go, Ronnie.
Well, it also applies to us on the personal level. When we try to do the Lord's work without the Lord, we usually start fighting everybody around us. Everything else, we're a wild man too. Without God, it is.
There's a lot to this, isn't there? I'm going to leave you right there. Go, Frank.
He instructed her to go back and submit herself. So she's in anticipation of hard life. Maybe some physical stuff involved. And I think here God says, yeah, God is with you.
And I've seen him, and I'm still alive. Yeah, she's been someplace that you and I have never been. She stood in his presence. She was what? Sure she was. She had no choice in the matter. They didn't ask her, do you want to do this? She was the maid. She was the bond slave. She had no way she could back out. She couldn't say, I'm not going to do it. So I feel a little bit, sympathetic towards her. But I just wish they hadn't done it.
You can kind of understand Sarah too. There are a lot of mothers today, I think, who use a surrogate to carry their child.
Tell me what you mean. Dave, cut me off. Tell me what you mean.